So let's talk about becoming a billionaire. When does that actually happen? Is it always in your 20s, like all the stories you hear? Well, in this explainer, we're going to dig into the real numbers and bust some myths about what it takes to hit that 10-figure mark.
Okay, do me a favor. Just for a second, picture a billionaire. How old is that person in your head? I'm willing to bet for a lot of you, it's a pretty specific image, right? Probably someone young, maybe in a hoodie, a tech founder. And that whole image, it often comes down to just one number. A number that kind of defines success for a whole generation. That number? 23.
Yup, 23. That's how old Mark Zuckerberg was when he officially became a billionaire. I mean, his story basically wrote the modern playbook for success, didn't it? Be young, move fast, break things. But here's the big question. Is that the only story or even the most common one?
All right, so let's start there. Let's dive into what we're calling the prodigy playbook. You know the one, the story of the 20-something founder who just seems to make it all happen overnight.
You've got Evan Spiegel, right? The Snapchat guy. He joined that billionaire club at just 25. I mean, that just feeds right into that narrative of super early, incredible success.
And then there's Larry Page, one of the minds behind, Google, the thing that runs our lives. He hit that billion-dollar mark at age 30. And his co-founder, Sergey Brin, was right behind him, crossing that line just a year later at 31.
And of course, you can't talk about this without mentioning the OG tech prodigy himself, Bill Gates. He also hit that milestone at 31, basically setting the standard for generations of founders to come.
So when you see them all lined up like this, that prodigy playbook seems pretty real, doesn't it? You've got this handful of tech geniuses who completely changed the game in their 20s and early 30s. But, and this is a big but, this is really just chapter one of a much, much bigger story. And that brings us to our next group, the empire builders. And these folks show us that massive success looks totally different once you step outside the world of software and social media. This is where the whole strategy just pivots. We're shifting from that one single disruptive piece of tech to building a huge, multifaceted empire over time. It's a totally different ballgame, and it's played on a completely different clock.
I mean, just look at this list. You've got Rihanna building an absolute empire in both music and cosmetics, hitting billionaire status at 33. Then Jeff Bezos, who started out just selling books online and turned it into, well, Amazon. He got there at 35. J.K. Rowling created an entire universe with her books at 38. And then you see Elon Musk and Jack Ma deep into their 40s. This just proves, beyond a doubt, that you don't have to be coding in a dorm room in your 20s to make it big.
So what exactly do we mean by an empire builder? Well, it's not about that one single light bulb moment. It's about strategically growing and building a brand over many, many years. It's a much longer, more complicated path that really leans on experience. Okay, so we've done the 20s and the 30s and 40s. What happens if we look even later? Well, that brings us to our final group, the seasoned legends. These are the people who prove that sometimes the biggest wins come to those who are willing to play the long, long game. This right here, this timeline, just screams patience is power. Look at Oprah Winfrey, who built a media empire literally founded on trust and became a billionaire at 49. Michael Jordan, who turned his legacy on the court into a global brand powerhouse at 51. George Lucas, who built entire galaxies, hit it at 52. And then the master of patience himself, Warren Buffett, who didn't reach that milestone until he was 56. And this quote from Charlie Munger, Buffett's partner for ever, it just says it all. The big money is not in the buying or the selling, but in the waiting. Their fortunes weren't built on some flash of genius in their youth. Nope, it was built on decades of patience, wisdom, and letting that money just grow. So let's pull all this together. What's the new perspective here? Well, that story we started with, the Zuckerberg model, it turns out it's not the path. It's just one path among many. And check this out, because the actual data really drives it home. That prodigy group, the under 35s, they're actually a pretty small slice of the pie. The biggest group, by a long shot, are the empire builders, the ones hitting their peak between 35 and 49. Which means the most common way to become a billionaire is the one we almost never talk about. And really, that's the big takeaway here. Success just doesn't have a deadline. It doesn't matter if it's a disruptive idea when you're 23, building an empire at 43, or completely mastering your craft by 63.
The numbers show there are so many different timelines for hitting that monumental level of success. So we've looked at the prodigies, the empire builders, and the seasoned legends. And the data is crystal clear. There is no single right time to succeed. Which, of course, leaves us with one final, big question. A question for you. What will your timeline look like?